Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Media Talks. I'm delighted to be joined by the Managing Director of Bonded Agency in Newcastle. It's Steve. Hello, Steve. How are you?
I'm very well, Cheryl. Thanks for having me on today. I really
No,
appreciate it.
no problem. Steve, tell everybody who is outside, who is in London, sorry, who is Bonded and what do you do?
Okay, yeah, no problem. Bonded is a digital and media agency. We we're relatively young as a business. We're just approaching our third birthday. We were established in July 2021 by five people that had worked before, largely in sort of global network agency environments, including myself, and very experienced individuals. And we've grown well since the inception of the business, and very proud of what we've achieved. In terms of services, we focus on sort of performance digital, so social media, advertising and organic, Google advertising, display, affiliates, SEO, content and digital PR as well, and then also traditional media, so TV, audio, out of home and press. So we're full funnel in terms of planning and activating advertising campaigns for clients.
And who's your typical client avatar? Who do you usually work with?
We tend to work with either established advertisers in the industry right across consumer sectors and B2B as well, or sort of aspirational sort of smaller brands who perhaps are doing relatively well and want to go to that next level, and we, I suppose, can help them grow and achieve those ambitions. So that's broadly, I guess, the combination of the types of clients that we work with. A typical client might be like a multi-channel retailer who, on the more established front, where they've got an e-commerce business and they'll maybe an offline store or a few, and they want to drive online sales, but also footfall into stores as well. That's a typical type of client for us, but we do work with pure play e-com brands as well. We work right across retail, travel, finance, insurance, and B2B education. So I think, we've got such a breadth of experience at the agency that we don't specialize in one particular sector. We're able to apply our knowledge across various areas with various businesses.
No, you said that you've only been going 3 years, so happy birthday for when that comes out, which is a little bit after COVID, but also during the dreaded 2023 that most people had. I try to be as positive as I can on this podcast, but 2023 for most people was an absolute write-off. And for a new business, was that not, and you tell me, I mean, I don't know, was that not a really rocky part of a very early part of the business?
It's a good question. It wasn't rocky. I mean, we've actually financially been sort of cash positive, if you like, since month one. And we've run the business very well financially. I think that's, one of our achievements to date. The context of the question, though, is a really interesting one. I mean, we did take our time in terms of making the decision as to whether it was the right thing to do at the right time. There was a relative amount of preparation that went into launching the business from that perspective. I think, a lot of it comes down to, as it does with many businesses, it's just having the confidence in your ability, and that's, it sounds easier than it is. There's lots of highly capable people out there who may always want to run a business, but just don't have that confidence to make that step. And we came together to collectively, the founders of the business, and we had the benefit of having worked together before. Myself, well, and the other four directors, we'd all worked together in our previous business, in Dentsu, which is a global network agency. And that's principally, the time that we had together, and we'd each worked together sort of 5 years in that business, on day-to-day clients and at a senior level as well. So, a big learning sort of 3 years on that's been really, really useful to have that sort of confidence in each other and understanding of how each other works. Don't get me wrong, there's lots that you learn in your own, independent environment, and you challenge one another to be the best you can be and the business to be the best it can, and naturally you learn things about one another even now. So, but it must be really tough for founders that haven't worked together, and some founders don't even know one another really that well. And I think that throws up different challenges and different ones to the ones we may have experienced in our lifetime so far.
I'm going to just pick on what you said at the beginning about the fact that you had the confidence. You all had the confidence to know that it was going to work. Where did that confidence come from?
Through experience, I'd say, principally. I mean, myself and the fellow directors have got a sort of at least 15 years experience each at consulting with clients in an agency environment. From my personal perspective, I've worked in the industry just over 20 years. I've worked with lots of different people in that time. I was director of an independent agency for 10.5 years, and then I exited that business, went into Dentsu for 6, where I was managing partner and on the board and so forth. So I've been exposed to and actively recruited a lot of people during that period. I took a very active role in recruiting in Dentsu as well for the office that I ran. As a people business, I've always placed real importance on the people that we work with. So I've interviewed lots and lots of people as well. So I feel like personally, I've got a good handle on anyway what I believe in terms of the types of people that I've worked with or interviewed, are connected with in the industry. And my genuine belief is the people that I started the business with are, some of the best people that I've worked with prior to launching the business. So I guess it was that confidence really. I'd as I say, I'd worked with each of them at least 5 years, actively day to day in pressurized environments. We work with clients, and we did really well commercially at Dentsu as well, and on our P&L. So yeah, that really helps have that confidence for me anyway.
What made you exit Dentsu and then go and set up something on your own? Apart from the confidence to do it, what drove you to do it? Because not everybody has that entrepreneurial spirit. Most people, I'd say 98% of people, like a nice paycheck, and they could be the most skilled person, most talented person, more than you and I put together, and yet they don't do it. So what motivated you to do it?
I think it's, taking, when you work in an environment like Dentsu, and the other networks, you are working with, big global brands a lot of the time. It's one of the benefits of working in those environments. And that means that you used to, or you develop the experience of, certainly at our level, developing strategies for those types of businesses, implementing them, developing great relationships with media owners because, you're spending lots of money with them essentially, and so on and so forth. And we really felt that we could take, on a service level, take that experience and skills and knowledge that we developed and apply it to slightly less big businesses, if you like, but those that are aspirational and really make an impact. I do think we're not the first agency in the UK to be sort of ex-network into agile independent, but there aren't that many, and being able to apply those skills in what is a very fast-paced environment. We work in digital and traditional media, as I mentioned, and there's so many fast-changing aspects of digital. Being able to be on top of that and have the culture and the knowledge of how to apply those learnings and that sort of innovation to clients that are growing. That's where we felt we could, on a service level, we could deliver the impact. Also, I think it's fair to say that we've been very visible around our belief around human connection. That we were keen to establish a belief as to why we would exist as a business, rather than just believing that we're good at what we do. And we thought about it for a long time prior to launching Bonded, and we really landed on what is a simple ideology around the importance of people, the importance of how we behave around people, both our own team, future team members, obviously, our clients, and then team's client side. And this sort of belief around how we engage on a human level in a very fast-paced, technology-driven world. And whilst we're on top of all that, what we value more is the human aspect of what we do. We're a people business at the end of the day. And that is part of why we established Bonded as well, being able to have control of that aspect. Because obviously, if you're in a big global PLC, like you can't influence, you can only so much you can influence how the ability to of how the culture can be set and how it can be developed around people, because there's
Yeah.
lots of other influences over that. So being able to run your own business and then have complete control over that and build the culture that you want, and that belief, that was a real driver. I think that was the key. That was the key. That's the key to our existence, really.
And I'll probably know the answer to this, but do you ever struggle, or what's your thoughts on cutting through the digital media noise? Because when you go on YouTube, Instagram, like everything, everyone's an expert. They seem to be younger and younger. I mean, I'm just jealous, by the way, but I look at someone who I was watching someone yesterday who looked about 15, multi-millionaire, set up this multimedia digital agency, has done really well. And you kind of think, I don't know. You think it, like, is all that genuine? Like, is there a reason? Is there a reason anymore to have a fixed agency like yours? I'm not suggesting that there isn't, but how do you cut through that noise?
Um, so I think there's a few aspects to answering that question. So our beliefs are around the link to the human connection element, our core sort of beliefs around like authenticity, honesty, transparency, key sort of soft behaviors really that they're very, very important and influence like how we work with clients and how we behave with one another in our business. That's really important in the context of what you've mentioned there, because there's a lot of inauthentic sort of communication and content through, for instance, social media. A lot of people perhaps not completely telling the truth all the time, should we say? And that is completely against our values. Like, I will genuinely say that we won't post content, and I personally won't post content on social, for instance, or any other medium that isn't true to who we are and isn't true, basically. So they've got that like authenticity. I mean, and it's back to what,
Can I just ask you a quick question just before I
yeah.
forget on that? What if what you believe or what you think is genuine conflicts with a client? Then what?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, it should be based on fact and data as opposed to subjectivity. So, obviously there's going to be subjective conversations where we all have our own opinions, and that's fine. And, that I think the approach to that should be that, you listen to one another's opinions, you share your views, and then you have a sort of conclusive conversation as to where you go next. I think I would say, without going off on a tangent, that that's paramount, like board level conversations amongst others. Like I sit on outside of Bonded, like a few boards as well, and people should share their views. I learned that early in that journey as well. Share your views around the board table, and you're not always going to agree with people, but there's not always an obvious answer to what a scenario might be. And ultimately, like, you're just working in the best interest of the client. And if they believe that and they trust you that you're doing that, then they want you to share their views. What we find with clients, even the most mature ones, even the ones with the biggest, the most developed teams, and etc., that they want us to challenge them. They want us to come with fresh perspectives and ideas, particularly in the environment we're in, where it's fast paced. Clients don't have all the answers, and neither should they. One of the reasons they typically work with an agency is because they're so busy, building their own brands, being involved in lots of different aspects of the business that influence marketing, product selection, trends, commercial aspects, trading. There's so many different aspects that, unless you think about it from the client lens, you often don't fully appreciate
Mm-hmm.
that they want us to be specialists in what they employ us to do, and they want us to challenge, and they expect us to be ahead of them in what we consult with them on. So should they be. So yeah, we find that it's never too challenging, that sort of dynamic, and usually the views, if they differ, are welcomed. And to come back to the original question around sort of authentic content and noise, I think just being true to yourself, being consistent, is critical. Being authentic, building your own brand, if you like, on a personal level, and then for the business, that's the view that we've always taken. Like our whole culture is based around medium to long term relationship building. It's not about smash and grab. We do obviously consult with clients on trends and things that are happening right now in terms of innovation, but certainly from a relationship perspective and how we communicate our own sort of being and beliefs and everything else, it's about building that over time and building a positive sort of perception and brand in the market, really. And naturally, like certain environments are cluttered. That's just the nature of social media. Um, I suppose it's just we believe in the process of connecting with the right individuals and you sort of influences over those individuals and keeping top of mind with those people, that community, and just building a positive and consistent visibility with them. That's how we go about businesses bonded in our own marketing. It's slightly different for clients in that context. I'm not sure if that was quite where the question was angled, but just in the nature of sort of cluttered environments, naturally social, that's one of the challenges when you're running advertising campaigns for clients is, the data suggests people only watch ads for 3 seconds and, you really need to capture their attention, otherwise they've scrolled on to the next. And,
Three
that is,
seconds. Is that where we're at now? Good grief.
yeah, yeah. So, you take particularly like video-based channels like TikTok or Reels or, people where the scroll is there, people will just, that sort of scroll on to the next. So, capturing their attention and the importance in creative in delivering that, as well as the sort of media aspect of planning is very important now.
You mentioned earlier about your culture being so integral and entwined to people and the human connection you mentioned quite a few times. How is that going to play out with AI?
Again, a really interesting question, and one that's like, I guess, a
It's a
relatively.
loaded question. I'm not expecting you to to answer it
Yeah,
all, but
it's fine. I can answer it because it is something that is integral to our thought process, I guess. So our position on technology overall is that we're on top of like the latest developments and on the cusp of innovation, if you like. That I'll get to answering the question, but that is evidenced through things like Bonded Bite Size that we produce on a weekly basis. That's all about the latest platform innovation announcements, and so we don't just say that; like we evidence it through a weekly investment where we actually review 700 to 1,000 articles a week, and then distill it down into about 15 to 20 updates on a Wednesday. If anyone wants to have a look on our social channels. Um, but yeah, in terms of the question and I mean, obviously AI is a very hot topic, has been particularly since the start of 2023, I'd say, but been around for a long time. Before that, we're again in the nature of being on top of innovation. It does come into our sort of day-to-day lives for clients, naturally, across platforms like Google, social media ones like Meta. They've been becoming increasingly more AI driven. We know their sort of journey that's coming as well because we're very close to media owners and we have those conversations with them. And we put on a big event in March in Newcastle where Meta, Pinterest, X, Spotify, I think Vauxhall spoke, and they spoke very much around well, it was future trends in advertising was the theme. So the AI was talked about a lot at that sort of morning event that we hosted, as an example. Our, our 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 position is that we're very much on top of the technology. I believe, and the business believes, that consultancy element of our business will become increasingly more important. I think what will happen in the industry is that we're moving away from, particularly in certain activity, the doing aspect of how agencies are employed, and that AI will take more of a role in that over the next 3 to 5 years, particularly when we look at digital advertising campaigns, for instance, across key platforms like Meta and Google. The automation that's already coming in through aspects such as Performance Max on Google, Vantage Plus on Meta. That's already happening. But clients still want the brains. They still need the consultancy. The right type of clients value that. And that's where we will develop our business. We're growing horizontally at the top. We're continuing to, and we'll continue to invest in senior individuals who can consult effectively with clients. And that consultancy demand, if you like, in the market will only increase. So your typical agency model, digital agency model of like pyramid, where the activation of campaigns will often get passed to the most junior people for cost efficiency purposes. I think that will be challenged and is already being challenged because the machines will pick up some of that work, if you like, and AI will take over some of that work. That's my belief on it. And we're well set up in that scenario because that's not how we're structured as a business. About a third of our team at the minute is very senior, sort of 15 years plus experience consulting with clients, and that we'll continue to invest in that way.
So what will happen to the generations that are coming out from university and the graduates? Where are they going to go? Because I think there just generally is, I think you get two camps of people, and I'm not really sure where I sit in either of them, so I'm not biased in either way really. But you get the one that's really excited about AI. They can see, I mean, I use AI quite a lot in my recruitment agency. But also there's those that are genuinely, and I think quite rightly in some ways, fearful for where's the skills gap going to be? Where are these people going to go? Like, AI can edit, it can intuitively come up with creative idea. Like, where does this leave us? Not the people at the top, but where does it leave everybody else?
It's a good question. I mean, I think, look, one of the boards that I sit on is the Northeast Lab, which is all about economic prosperity in the Northeast and trying to deliver a strategy that helps the straplines more and better jobs. So, it is very employment focused in that respect. And, we work with government funding to help deploy that effectively on a strategy level across the region. So, one of the key pillars of the Northeast economy is digital, which is one of my roles on board, actually. So, the skills gap, which isn't just prevalent in the Northeast, it's across the UK, particularly digital skills gap, it isn't a brand new topic. It's been around for a long time and will continue to be. And it's very heavily influenced by, the pace of change, really, and how innovation develops at pace and the traditional routes of education, where, you take a typical route, which might be, school, college, university type route. It's very difficult for those establishments to be on the cusp of the latest AI developments and teach those because ultimately, they can be outdated pretty quick, from an education perspective. So I think in many ways, it opens up opportunities because that would be my mindset because new people coming into the industry is changing so quickly anyway, and there's such a demand on skills that individuals have the opportunity to adapt and develop those skills and fill real gaps that exist and don't the gaps that exist within the existing market. So and also I think there's a strong element of aspects such as data, AI, certain elements of development, coding, depending on the interests of the individual. They're key areas that if you did develop a good knowledge in, your skill set would be probably very high in demand and therefore might be a good career choice if that's something that interests you. So whilst I take the point of the question, I think it's very valuable. I actually see it as an opportunity that if we can adapt and be agile as a sort of sector, as a marketing sector, and offer opportunities that allow people to be educated in the key areas of demand, it will really help the employment market and enable firms who want to understand more about AI and deliver more efficiencies through our AI and automation and technology. In principle, in theory, junior people can come in and pick those skills up and really focus on that, as opposed to going down a route of developing skills or focusing on skills where perhaps AI will fulfill that need in the future. The reality is that when you look at key aspects of what we do as a business, such as managing Google advertising, managing social media advertising, the intricacies of planning and activating that activity, it's quite on the job training that individuals get. They don't typically learn that those skills to the level that are required at university. I don't know of a course that would output a graduate who could immediately come in manage a Google advertising campaign effectively. They would need to be trained in our agency to do that. So it's not like the skills they're learning will be redundant when they go into the workplace. This will just adapt in our aspect the skills that they're trained on around where the need of the business is and well the need for clients ultimately. So it's quite agile. I guess that's the takeaway. It's like the industry is fast paced, but as long as
Mm,
you're agile to business, particularly
yeah,
if you're in services to clients, then we'll be all right. I think what we're seeing is that even the biggest brands want to know like what's happening in AI. Like what do I need to know? I haven't got
yeah,
the time to keep on top of it.
yeah,
So therefore, there's an opportunity because they want to understand
yeah.
like what's going on, and that's right across even the most mature marketing brands, the ones that invest the most in marketing and value it the most. There, because what I find is when you work with the bigger brands, well, all brands really, but they want the competitive edge, particularly in
Yeah.
today's environment. There's always innovation and trends and opportunity about often the crux of the challenge around, we want more innovation, we want more strategy. It ultimately leads to how do we get the competitive edge? How do we drive more of that active customer who's in market looking for our type of product? How do we get that share? How do we increase our market share against competition?
We're not all going to be replaced by robots in 5 years.
Um, I don't think so. It's different, isn't it? It's different across every sort of aspect of the type of jobs that people do, and some ultimately will uh, be delivered through automation and machines in the future. But um, as I said, I think there's still lots of opportunity that will come out, and it will balance it out. The key is the agility and adaptation of how we go about that, really.
Okay. You obviously your name is Bonded, and there's five of you, that make up the senior sort of management team. Who came up with that name and why? What does it mean?
So it was a collective effort, I guess, across the sort of founders of the business. As we invested, and it's all linked to the brand position around connection. So what we came, what the process we went through is we spent. I worked with a brand consultant friend of mine, a guy called Mike Owen, who's very experienced and very good at what he does. And I also know him very well, so we went quite deep on a one-to-one basis as to why we might, I might want to be involved in launching a business, a new agency. And we talked it through over many conversations and we landed on the belief around connection. We discussed it as a sort of founding team and everyone was, very enthused and I believed that that was, where the business should be positioned. Um, and yeah, we just came up with the name of Bonded after that. It's an interesting one really because we're not brand creatives. We don't often come up with brand names for our clients that we work with and things. So it's quite an interesting process to go through for ourselves. And what I found as well, so I've done a few non-exec positions for private brands as well, and I often find that despite how impressive a founder of a brand might be, or how impressive and brilliant at what they do, and however brilliant their business is. Often it's very difficult because they're working in the business for them to step out of that business and like look at it from an outward in perspective and an objective perspective, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Often when I can work with CEOs on that non-exec basis, it's pointing things out to them about like how things should be done when they're able to do that about other brands quite easily. It's quite often an experience that I have, and I think it is if it's your business, it's often more difficult to look at it objectively and come up with things like brand names, strap lines. It's one of the key skills I think of leading a business is how do you create that mind space and head space to step out of the business and look in and go and work on the business in that way when you're particularly like Bonded, doing well and we're growing quickly in the right way and we're doing all the right things. It's creating that time to do that and think about more strategic things as well as running the business effectively month by month.
Talking of growth and doing well, and obviously I run a recruitment agency, so it's natural for me to ask you what's going to happen in terms of growth and hiring, and what are you looking for? Like what, and why should people come to work for you?
Um, sorry, growth and hiring. So yeah, we're growing steadily. I mentioned earlier, like the core service areas that we deliver. So, and the intention to continue to build senior sort of consultants to consult with clients. So that's the direction of travel, really. I mean, recruiting across our sort of key areas. We opened up in Edinburgh last year in October. So we're headquartered in Newcastle. Um, that was a purposeful move. We are over the course of the rest of this year and beyond going to be increasingly sort of building visibility and engagement in Scotland. And then also, the Southeast is an area of focus. We just had our first team member move down there to live and be based full time in London. So they're, I suppose, geographically two areas of development and focus for the business. So, I guess in the nature of your question, if you're based in those markets, and we'd be always interested in having discussions with the right people. And why should people come to work with Bonded? I mean, I'd like to say the different aspects of what we touched on today, that sort of desire and belief and pride really in how we go about delivering services for clients and looking to deliver sector leading strategies for clients and that sort of global agency quality, but in an agile, independent environment. That's where position on the service level. But I'd say beyond that, the culture aspect and the belief around connection and everything that leads to, if people believe in that approach and want to come to work for a business, perhaps they're not getting that where they are at the moment. That would be a reason why I'd say, come if you believe in that belief, then it's a good starting point for a
Steve,
conversation.
I would like to get you back on to talk about health and well-being because that's I know that's
Mhm.
really important to you personally, but also to your agency. So I'm gonna do a whole series to try and help people who are currently struggling looking for work. And I feel like kind of mindset, mental health, strategies, and kind of how people can improve their chances are really important. But I'm going to do a mini series on that. So are you happy to come back and talk to me on
I'd
that?
love to. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Thank
Lovely,
you.
Steve. Do you know it's been a real pleasure?
Yeah, I know. Thanks so much, Cheryl.
No
Hope
worries.
really enjoyed the conversation and look forward to going back on.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Steve. And thank you
All
guys
right.
for watching. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.